Tardigrades are nature's hardiest little water bears, surviving a huge range of extreme environments by entering a dehydrated hibernation-like state called cryptobiosis. But what triggers their cryptobiosis, and, well, why can't we do it? Because tardigrades may contain science. Tardigrades are 8-legged microanimals, and the internet loves them because, 1, they're surprisingly cute, and 2, they are the only animals that have ever survived both the radiation and vacuum of total exposure to space. Not survive, like, live out there for a few minutes while taking extreme damage, but a handful of them were like, no, yeah, we're good. Don't worry about me out here. And it's not just space. No other multicellular organism can survive quite so many different kinds of extreme conditions as tardigrades can. Tardigrades aren't extremophiles in the traditional sense. Those are creatures that are adapted to live in a particular extreme environment, like the heat and pressure of a deep undersea vent or polar cold. An extremophile that lives in one of those environments doesn't typically thrive in the other. But tardigrades do. They're generalists of, it'll take a whole lot more than that to kill me. But the trade-off is, the tardigrade survives in all these different stressful environments, but it doesn't thrive in any of them. That's because tardigrades do have some environmental adaptations to individual environments that trigger in those environments like heat or cold, but their signature ability when the environment gets real dangerous is to pretty much tunnel up like a scared roly-poly. They enter something called tun state, where they tuck their legs and head, dehydrate like an emergency meal, and secrete a sugar that crystallizes around them like armor and helps prevent them from inadvertently rehydrating by osmosis. Meanwhile, they protect their DNA from damage with a damage suppressor protein, and their metabolism slows way down, allowing them to survive in stasis for decades or more until conditions improve, at which point they rehydrate on their own, perk back up, and just go about their little water bear business once again. This is all well-established tardigrade lore, but until I saw this article in PLOS ONE, it never occurred to me to ask, what triggers tardigrades to go into survival mode? How do they know it's time to come back out? Well, one possibility could be that each individual condition has its own pathway to triggering tun state, like sensing heat, sensing cold, sensing pressure, dehydration, radiation. Each of these have their own way of initiating tun state, survival mode. But these conditions all have one stress response in common. And as this study demonstrates, that response is what initiates Operation Tardigrade Turtle Up. And when it recedes, does likewise. It's the generation of reactive oxygen species. Okay, which seems like it should be a big reveal. So, let's talk about why oxygen, a thing we need, sounds like the bad guy here. Biochemically, oxygen is great and terrible. All aerobic organisms, so animals like tardigrades and animals like us, need oxygen for efficient energy production. Our mitochondria effing love the stuff, as it is mission critical to facilitate the reactions in which our mitochondria make ATP. But you know how H2O is super stable and chill, but most combinations of hydrogen and oxygen are reactive as heck and have absolutely no chill? When our little aerobic systems are working the way they should, they use those no-chill chemicals like O2 and hydrogen peroxide to their advantage. They're an intermediate product in cellular respiration, making chemical reaction go burr. Reactive oxygen species are produced and used in our cells for normal biological signaling, and they're present in pretty much all our cells at low levels. But that low levels part is key. You want the reactive chemicals when you want certain reactions. But the whole point of reactive oxygen species is that, well, they're reactive. You don't want high enough levels floating around in your cell that they start reacting with things you never wanted or intended. Like, you know, your DNA, which we very much want to keep intact. So, while reactive oxygen species are absolutely essential to oxygen metabolism for animals, we also have an antioxidant system in our cells to chemically reduce reactive oxygen species down to nice, safe H2O. For instance, we'll peel off an oxygen atom from H2O2 and pop it onto another molecule for safekeeping. Now, you don't have reactive oxygen species, you have H2O. I know I wondered why, if oxygen is essential to our survival, why antioxidants are supposed to be a good thing. Well, it's because you want this system to be in balance. You need reactive oxygen species for cellular respiration, but you don't want high levels of them running around your cells, reacting with every damn thing and damaging the cell. That's why, when the balance is thrown off like that, it's called oxidative stress. And, funny enough, those extreme environments that provoke tardigrades to go into ton-state survival mode, those environments all induce oxidative stress in animal cells. So, aerobic organisms that have made this warlock pact have to deal with oxidative stress somehow. Because we all have this problem, the pathways that govern cellular stress response, from hypoxia or genotoxic stress, oxidative stress, those all tend to link to one solution that we use across species. You know, it works, don't mess with success, evolution is incremental, all that. Great. But that's the difference between tardigrades and everybody else. Tardigrades have the same warlock pact with reactive oxygen species. They have an antioxidant system that reduces reactive oxygen species by handing oxygen to other molecules like glutathione for safekeeping, like we talked about, and so on. And when things get bad, tardigrades do experience oxidative stress too, just like other animals do. But the difference is how they react when that oxidative stress gets out of hand, because rather than use the same solution that everyone else does, tardigrades have their own set of pathways, their own set of tardigrade-specific proteins. Yeah, that's actually their trademark name, tardigrade-specific proteins. And they have their own mechanisms to protect their DNA from damage. And when there are high levels of reactive oxygen species and most of their safekeeping glutathione molecules are already oxidized, that's the sensor. That's the sensor that prompts tardigrades to roll up into survival mode. And even when the tardigrade's metabolism slows way down, one of the things it does is continue to produce glutathione, the antioxidant molecule that hangs on to that extra oxygen from the reactive oxygen species. As the ton-state tardigrade keeps its antioxidant system running, when the stressful environmental conditions abated, eventually the antioxidants will bring balance back to the force, which is what signals the tardigrade that it is safe to unfasten their seatbelts and unroll out of ton state. Put it all together, and you have a system that activates in response to a wide range of environmental stressors and is fully reversible when those adverse conditions go away. Rather than individually engineer responses to each of these different environmental conditions, there's a certain sort of elegance to tardigrade biology. If it's given me oxidative stress, I'm going to curl up in cryptobiosis until the problem goes away. Between their specific environmental adaptations and their ultimate ton-state survival mode triggered by oxidative stress, tardigrades are perfectly positioned to occupy their unique sort of niche. I'll thrive here, even if other animals can't. After ecological disruptions like volcanic eruptions, tardigrades are some of the first animals to repopulate the hazardous area, feeding on microbes and releasing waste products to support new plants and animals as they join the rebuilding ecosystem. Because no matter what, the tardigrade is prepared. They're little survivors. And so cute.